Hey, there it goes. Okay. Look at that. Now YouTube's recording.
Great, just what I need. My face on the fucking video.
Your face will be on the internet.
Oh no.
No, record on Audacity, because that's the part that really matters.
Hey, I finished. I finished the bulk of my refactor on my blog software. It's up and running now. The new version on my website.
You finished the bulk of what?
I refactored the software I wrote that hosts my blog.
What does refactor mean?
It means I rewrote most of it to not suck.
Why not say rewrote?
Because refactor has a specific meaning that I'm not going to go into because you don't understand.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Tech Twice Weekly, episode number 14. Hey everybody, this is Tech Twice Weekly for September 15th, 2014. I'm Ben White, and this is your source for technology news and discussion twice a week, every Monday and Thursday. I'm happy to welcome my guest for tonight and great friend, Eric Fee. How you doing, man?
I'm groovy.
Have a good weekend?
It was okay.
I had a long weekend. I can't quite say productive, but very busy. Didn't really feel like I got time off. I was kind of working the whole weekend.
My heart bleeds for you.
I'll pretend you mean that. Because I know that you actually spend a lot of your weekend working on your cars and motorcycles. But of course, that's work you enjoy, so that helps.
Sure. It'd be nice if it was all magically done, though.
Hey, I've offered my unintelligent and untrained hands for what they're worth.
It costs more than what they're worth.
That might be true. Well, if nothing else, I'm always welcome to lend my annoying and sometimes patronizing banter.
Can I get a choice not to get that?
That's what you normally get. See. All right. Well, let's get into the headlines. I feel like it was a little bit of a dry week. No, I guess not week, but weekend of news. So we'll see what we can get out of it. Have you ever wanted to try out a Google Chromebook? Google Ohm is reporting on Google's newest marketing campaign, bringing short-term Google Chromebook loans to a handful of college campuses, possibly near you. According to the Google announcement, 11 different U.S. public colleges will soon have a Google pop-up booth arrive at their campus. The plan is to offer students a 3-day loan of a Chromebook to see if the device meets their daily needs. If you're interested in seeing if your school made the list, we'll have a link in our show notes. Google's also added that they plan to expand the program to other campuses if it's successful. Also, if you do manage to get your hands on one of these loaner Chromebooks, we'd love to hear your feedback on your experience with the whole program at feedback@techtwiceweekly.com. Eric, do you think you're going to try and track down one of these if they make it to Portland?
Maybe. I do work pretty close to a college campus. Might be able to swindle my way into getting a loaner. I've actually been really curious about Chrome OS, trying to know if it would meet my needs, but I'm having trouble making a VM out of one. I know that there's a guy who used to make virtual machine images of Chrome OS, but he stopped about a year ago, so it's kind of stagnant.
Interesting. I know we were talking last week, kind of before and after the show, about you trying to build one from the original binary code. Did that not end up working out?
Not really. I was having problems with some of the tools and the little guide they had. I might give it another shot. Yeah, like I said, I'd really like to see how they would work because although I do like my MacBook, it's a little bit annoying to have it around. It's kind of heavy in comparison with other devices, and I don't. And having owned tablets before, I don't really think those would suit my needs for my out and about. Who knows? I'm excited to hear that people are getting a chance to use it. There's some really neat stuff coming to Chrome. I think that we reported already on the being able to run Android apps in Chrome on a Chrome OS.
Yeah, I remember that news coming out. I think we did cover that a little while back, and I think that adds a lot of potential functionality to the Chromebook.
Yeah, well, it kind of bridges the gap between Android and Chrome OS, which is kind of cool because being able to run your favorite apps on the Chromebook would open up the array of valuable tools that it offers.
Especially since the Android Play Store has a lot of good apps that can run offline, giving the Chromebook a little more functionality when you're away from an internet connection.
Totally.
Well, if you do manage to get your hands on a Chromebook, I'd love to get your feedback on the show. It's something I've always meant to look more into and get hands on with, and just have never had an opportunity.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Well, Gizmodo is covering the news that in less than a week after Apple's announcement for the Apple Watch, there is already an Android Wear watch face to match it. The company Your Art, which developed the application Wear Faces for Android Wear, has released a free download that mimics the Apple Watch UI, and it is available in both round and square versions. So while you're waiting for the Apple Watch to go on sale, it might be worth considering checking out maybe a Moto 360 and trying out this app to see if, hey, maybe you can meet your needs with just the interface and don't actually need Apple software. GSM Arena brings us information on the AT&T wireless announcement that the carrier won't be enabling Wi-Fi calling on their network anytime before 2015. While the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus offer Wi-Fi calling as a built-in feature, it is carrier opt-in dependent, and AT&T does intend to launch Wi-Fi calling, as AT&T's president and CEO Ralph De La Vega explained at the Goldman Sachs Communicopia conference, but will not activate it until it has been fully tested. That being said, T-Mobile has supported Wi-Fi calling for quite a while now and has already said they will be offering Wi-Fi calling with the iPhone at launch. Have you had a? I mean, I know you're a big iPhone user, but have you had a lot of Wi-Fi calling experience, maybe through Google or other applications?
I used to use Wi-Fi calling when I had T-Mobile years ago, and I find it to be pretty useful when I'm out of range of towers or in, you know, BFE at my buddy's place or something. It was actually pretty useful. And I know that a lot of devices offer it now with T-Mobile. I'm actually a little bit thrown that they're not offering it. The idea that it needs to be fully tested is a little bit of a drawn out kind of cliche for AT&T and team and for AT&T and iPhone features, because I remember way back when they didn't even offer 3G for the iPhone because it was uh, because they were worried about their network.
Yeah, that's right. I actually had that original iPhone with just an Edge connection, while all of these basic flip phones were using the 3G network. It was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so hopefully they will pull their heads out of wherever they keep them and just turn on Wi-Fi calling.
One interesting side note to this discussion is the fact that Google recently just enabled Wi-Fi calling through their Hangout application. And I know it's functional right now on Android. I believe they rolled it out at the same time for iOS. I don't know that for sure. But Google just released the Hangout dialer on the Google Play Store that allows you to make phone calls using your Google Voice number over Wi-Fi or over cellular data, actually, if you don't have a Wi-Fi connection available. And since my main phone number is through Google Voice right now, I've been able to use this feature to essentially make free phone calls, minute-free phone calls over Google Voice now for about a week. It's been really nice.
That's really cool. Yeah, I read about the voice and Hangouts integration stuff. Totally awesome.
Yeah, they finally got it all into one package with calling, SMS, and Google Talk all being in one package. And for now, it looks like I won't have to pay for SMS or for minutes with my cell phone provider any longer. All right. Well, the next big story, and this is a pretty big story, following up on rumors from last week that Mojang was being purchased by Microsoft. Mojang themselves posted a blog on their website this morning confirming their sale to the software giant. The end result of the sale is that Mojang was bought for $2.5 billion. I want to say that again. $2.5 billion. That is a lot of money. And beyond that figure, not a whole lot is known. The too long didn't read version of their blog post basically says that no one knows what will change after the acquisition, and no one knows what the future will hold for the company. Pretty much every question they tried to address in their blog post was answered with, well, this is the way it is now, and we don't know how it'll be in the future. I was really disappointed because they start off the blog post talking about wanting to be upfront and truthful about the acquisition, and throughout the blog post, while it may be truthful that they don't know, it's really just kind of a waste of my time to find out that, oh, we sold the company and have no idea what's going to happen now. We didn't make any arrangements or deals or negotiate. We just picked up a cool fat $2.5 billion. So I guess you could say I'm a little concerned about what's going to happen with Mojang and the various games that they're offering. The only one fact outside of the purchase that is really known for sure is that Marcus Pearson, better known as Notch, will be leaving the company after the transition period. Notch tweeted earlier that he will not be accepting any interviews on the announcement, so it may be a while before full details of the sale and the future of Mojang and their gaming titles become clear. I know you're not the biggest Minecraft fan, Eric, but what do you think of this sale?
I think I mentioned this last week, but a lot of titles that get sold to Microsoft usually still do pretty well. Microsoft has been pretty pretty forthcoming with content for a lot of the games Microsoft owns, and they own a lot of IPs and produce a lot of video games. So I'm interested to see how this goes forward. I know that the game itself and the code is not worth that price, but I really think Microsoft is really trying to get the IP so they can offer they can not only they can offer like games and toys and licensed material from it, control the products from the IP, as well as port the game to their phones and their consoles and make it more full for those experiences. Also, I find it really odd that Marcus Pearson is leaving immediately. That's very, very atypical.
Yeah, he's made a couple of announcements explaining his reasons for leaving and his reasons for selling the company. I mean, largely it seems to come down to the fact that he developed Minecraft as a small little project on the side. It blew up. He didn't expect it to gain the popularity that it did as quickly as it did. And it sounds like the success itself has been overwhelming to him. He said he's tried to write smaller games. He originally had some space title he was trying to work on that he ended up scrapping. And according to Notch, the whole issue is that all of the popularity and attention that Mojang and Minecraft has gotten has just been too much. He's not able to just sit and program for fun anymore. And that's his biggest motivation for selling and stepping away from the company.
I can kind of understand that, but I will say that he hasn't been working on Minecraft for a long time, anyways. He passed off the project of improvements and programming on Minecraft to Jeb a long time ago. So
Right.
I don't know what, like, I understand the fame thing, but I don't know what he's talking about where he can't go off and do things for himself. He's already a millionaire. He's already,
Right. And he wouldn't be the first person to take some of that money the company's bringing in and hiring someone to run the company if that's the part that he feels like is taking too much of his time. It's real easy to hire a CEO and hire a a CFO to handle your finances, and you just get to sit back as the president or the founder of the company and only step in when big major decisions need to be made. That's very typical of many large companies.
I think this is just his easy way out, and I don't fault him for taking an easy way out. I mean, I don't understand all of the pressures that he has. I don't understand a lot of the position he's coming from. So a lot of what I have to say is just speculation, and very, very well may not be real to the situation he's experiencing. But I will say that yeah, I kind of agree. Like I understand the easy sale, and that's not a bad move. But at the same time, I mean, it's kind of turning your back on the creature you created.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way to look at it. And I'm wondering if Notch is going to kind of disappear into the shadows for a little while after this and step out of the limelight, so to speak. But time will tell. I'm glad to hear that he's at least staying through the transition period. So Microsoft, I hope they're smart enough to just leave something that is profitable and successful alone. But at least during the transition, Notch will be there to make sure that in the interim, things stay on track. Right. Well, the Register is passing along a warning to Steam and Twitch users about a potential malware scam going around. The malware is spread through links being sent through chat rooms for Twitch streamers. The links are supposed to go to a raffle for a unique kit of weapons for the game Counter-Strike Global Offensive. If you click on the link, it will download a Java application to your computer, and when it runs, it will pop up a message letting you know that it's documenting your Steam username and email address to be entered into the raffle. However, what the file is actually doing is downloading a binary file in Windows and running it. The binary file scans your system for Steam accounts and sends the login credentials to the malware operator. The operator then has full access to your Steam account, allowing them to buy or sell items in the account's inventory or trade items away. While currently the only way to prevent this attack is to avoid running the malware itself, I personally would love to see this threat result in Valve implementing active two-factor authentication to the Steam software. Currently, Steam has a almost passive two-factor authentication for new systems that are connecting to your account, where they send you a code and you have to provide the code to log in. But I would much rather see this go to an active method like Google's implemented with Gmail or many other two-factor authentication systems. Tector is reporting on the effectiveness of the Internet Slowdown Day from September 10th. It turns out that more than 1,000 calls per minute were reportedly passed through the congressional switchboard, resulting in many members of Congress claiming their offices were swamped with phone calls. This is excellent news. And while the fight to protect net neutrality and prevent Internet fast lanes is squarely in the FCC's court, it is important that the member of Congress know how important it is to you and me that this fight, how important this fight is. So when the FCC has to issue regulations or pass laws to enact change, they get the authority and the power to do so. Now, while the deadline to give your voice to the FCC on the issue has passed, you can still contact your elected representative in Congress to make your opinion heard. And I want to encourage everyone, even if you're pro-internet fast lanes or tiered internet, to get your opinion out there. It is an important part of the political process that is all too frequently ignored. Were you part of the Internet Slowdown Day, or did you run into it anywhere, Eric?
I experienced some of it, and I'm glad that these ways of getting attention out there is attracting people. But at the same time, I feel personally that it's hard to change people's minds when they're being swayed by money or the opinions of people who have money. So I don't know what it's going to really do at the end of the day. I mean, the way board members swap onto the FCC might just be we might just be too screwed anyways.
It's sad, but that's a very, very true point. And even if we were to change the mind or set into action something with the current FCC board, who's to say that that board is necessarily going to be the same representatives who get to make this vote, just based on how fast things typically move through the government. But moving on, that's a story that really time is going to tell how that turns out. And we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on it and following up with that story as it progresses. But one thing not covered in Apple's big announcement last week was the death of the iPod. The Verge noticed, however, and has done an excellent summary of the MP3 player that changed portable music forever and saved Apple as a company. The end of the iPod also is a sign of the times, and fewer people are maintaining massive media libraries and are instead turning to streaming music services instead. Did you have one of these original iPods with the click wheel, Eric?
I have I've got an iPod Nano, one of the first generation ones lying around here somewhere. Still got a bunch of music on it, I think. I wonder if the battery still holds a charge.
Do you feel like you're missing something with the iPod ending its life, or do you feel like it's time?
I think it's about time, as they've pretty much been replaced by smartphones, even for people who do have music libraries. Once iPods went to solid state and their capacity decreased, they were kind of just the same thing as a smartphone without the phone. So there's that. Plus, MP3 players can be had for very cheap nowadays too. As much as the iPod has its own functionality built in with iTunes, if you don't use iTunes, then it's actually hard to use, and it's much better to pick up something cheaper and still just as functional. I used an iPod for a really long time, and I had a car with an iPod port, which I would just load up with music, and it worked really well. I remember I used Winamp had a plugin for iPods, so you could load them up with music and they'd function normally. But they patched that a long time ago, I believe. I don't know. Nostalgia
Disabling
trip.
the functionality of the third-party plugin.
Yeah, well, something went on with how iTunes organizes music on the iPods, and third-party software wouldn't interface with it anymore. I'm having kind of a nostalgia trip here, which just proves you how momentous the iPod was in introducing us all to the digital age.
Definitely, yeah. I remember picking up the iPod Video first generation when it came out. Um, I was I was in my first year at Portland State University. Just finished high school, and I decided to buy one down at the PSU bookstore. Took advantage of the student discount Apple offered at the time, and I used the hell out of that thing. I would go from full battery to dead in a day, easy, and charge it up overnight and drain it the next day. I remember that thing was pretty much glued in my ears at all times. And actually, the iPod Video was what first got me introduced to podcasts. I'd watch The Broken with Kevin Rose back in the day, and later on the Dig Nation podcast, all on that little postage stamp video screen. But times have changed. Now I've got an Nexus 5 smartphone, and I couldn't imagine going back to such a simple, basic device. I,
Exactly. That's why
I
they're gone. That's why they're gone.
right. I even bought an iPod Touch, one of the newer sleek editions, a couple years back, thinking all gung ho that, I'll have my music over here, my phone over here, and keep the two separate so I don't have to clutter my phone up with my big music collection. And then, not even 6 months after buying that device, I never used it because Pandora became really big and I was streaming all my music. I didn't have a reason to keep my music on a device anymore. And I just found that my phone very quickly changed to a device that had more memory, so storing a few files on it wasn't a big deal. And then eventually Spotify comes out, and now I'm streaming even more music. And slowly but surely, I lost reasons to have a dedicated MP3 player. But definitely good memories. I think it's important what the device did, and you can't pretend that it's dead. It's not dead. It's just moved inside the iPhone at the end of the day. All right. Well, our last story is, I don't know how else to say, but straight out of the WTF department. CNET fills us in on a new burger being sold by Burger King in Japan called the Kuro Burger. The burger features an all black bun and, even stranger, solid black cheese. This is topped with nothing but black sauce on top of a hamburger patty with black pepper. The bun and cheese are dyed using bamboo charcoal, while the sauce lists squid ink as an ingredient. I You can get a version of the burger with lettuce, tomato, and onion on it, which kind of breaks up the black monotony a little bit. But I don't know. The black bun, the black cheese, I think that's just too much for me. And I don't know the Kuro reference. I don't know if what that is in Japan. It's a commercial tie-in, I'm guessing, of some kind. Does Kuro mean anything to you, Eric? Is that something you're familiar with?
No, and it sounds weird. It sounds like might taste fine, but it might like disgust my eyes.
Right? I mean, everyone says you eat with your eyes, and if it doesn't look appetizing, I'm not going to want to eat it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I give it a shot. You bring me one for free, no problem.
Although I suppose the American palate and American food sensitivities are quite different from that of Japan. Their dinner menu consists of many things that most Americans would pass on. Of course, I suppose that's true for most countries outside the U.S. I mean, I know you took a trip down to Vietnam a while ago, and I'm sure you saw many of the same things there, where delicious cultural foods that most Americans would pass on without even trying.
Chicken feet.
Well, I think chicken feet are popular in the South, I want to say. I might just be making that up.
They're popular where you're so poor that you'll eat the chicken's feet.
Oh. But they're actually good. You've had chicken's feet?
Yes, they're interesting.
Is it something you would intentionally eat again?
Nope.
So it's a little more than just an acquired taste.
Well, all I can say about chicken feet is, what do chicken walk around in all day?
Yeah, point taken.
Exactly. You don't got to think too hard to figure out why someone might not be down with a chicken feet. It was a very interesting experience. I had a lot of interesting food in Vietnam and Cambodia. Um, get to say that I've tried crocodile steak and kangaroo.
Nice. I have tried kangaroo jerky. I've never had it in any other form, but it was really good, dehydrated and covered in some sort of barbecue teriyaki sauce. Do you
Yeah,
have like a steak, or how was it prepared?
yeah, it was like a steak. Um, that was at an interesting restaurant in Phnom Penh, or
Did
no,
it?
not Phnom Penh. Sorry, Siem Reap. And yeah, it's all just very interesting. There's lots of Vietnam is full of great food. Oh man, I tell you, if you're gonna visit someplace for an interesting culinary experience, it's Vietnam. The coolest thing about it is Vietnam's a pretty small country, smaller than California, about half the landmass I think of California. And between different areas, you go 100 miles, and all the food's gonna be slightly different. And so everywhere you go, you're having slightly different variations on the same culinary theme, and it's just damn tasty.
Awesome, actually. I mean, I know over and over and over again, I've talked about how we need to make a trip to Vietnam happen, and every time you talk about it, I want to more.
Oh yes. Oh, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. It's so nice there. The whole country is just excellent. Plus, you go during the winter, and it's super nice too.
uh, One of these days, it's on the bucket list.
All right, when you're an old man, we'll go.
Deal. Though I'd like to make it happen before that.
Hey man, I'm just waiting on you.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so moving into our tech toys you wish you could buy. The first product I found, I think is really interesting. I'm a little worried about the price point, but it's called the Equal Smart Pen 2. It is a digital pen that turns ink and paper into digital files. The concept of the pen is it acts like a traditional ballpoint pen. You pick it up and use it just like a regular pen, no big deal. But the Smart Pen allows you to record what you're writing into a file on the computer. Um, and it doesn't just do it by transferring your handwriting like a lot of traditional pen to computers do. This device instead uses ultrasound and infrared to locate the pen's position on the paper and duplicates that into a note or sketch on your computer. It has a pressure sensitive tip so it can recognize how hard you're writing, whether you're using it maybe a pencil compared to a marker. Right now, it is being funded through an Indiegogo campaign. They're looking for $50,000, and right now they've brought in $215,904. They're at 432% of their goal, with 23 days left to continue to raise funds. You can get one right now for $100 on their Kick or Indiegogo campaign, and supposedly this is $70 off their $170 retail price. So I don't know. I really like the concept. The videos that show the pen in use look really good, really smooth. But not being much of an artist, I'm not sure how much of my daily, day-to-day notes I really need translated like this. What do you think, Eric? Is this something you can see use for?
I'm really partial to note taking with pen and paper, so these kinds of things are fairly attractive, seeing as how I could immediately digitize those. The only thing I can think of to add on top of what's already been said is that the concept of a pen which can digitize your writing is not new. There are many of them, and they have existed for many years actually. So if $100 or $170 is too rich for your blood, there are many out there that work on a PC. I don't think they work on smartphones, but there are many out there that work for a PC if that's something you're interested in. I will also say that what I'd like to see more than a pen that tracks my writing and puts it onto my smartphone is actually just better stylus support for Android and Android devices. There are very few Android devices that support a very precise stylus. Most of them use a fake touch stylus, and I actually have one of those, and they're okay. But having used actual styluses from having Windows mobile phones from back in the day, I really actually do appreciate them, and I can see how writing with one would be fairly useful in nowadays where tablets are 10 inches long and have battery life of 7 hours or whatever.
Well, and especially considering this device is looking to be compatible with both Android and iOS devices, I think that could greatly expand its functionality. In a way, I could see myself using this on a notepad during meetings or something at the office, and I'm writing out my notes at the meeting, and when I get back to my desk, there it is, already synced through Dropbox, received through my phone, and waiting for me to be able to do something with it, so I can forward it to somebody who wasn't at the meeting, who may have need that information, or make additional notes or calendar plans or whatever is necessary. I can see some functional benefit for me in an office environment. And I like the additional features this offers, but yeah, I mean, I think $100 retail price these things would sell like crazy. I don't think $170 is ridiculous. I think they're asking a reasonable price, but it just tips into that luxury item category for me instead of a functional tool like a pocket knife or something like that where I would just jump on it.
Yeah, we'll see. The ways to integrate how we use paper and how we write and how we function are always. I'm always looking forward to new, interesting ideas of how to put that on a tablet or a computer or another device. Bridging the gap between human fine motor control and how we've been raised to use a pen and paper and apply that to today's digital technology.
Let's see, looking at the different reward tiers here. So, yeah, I guess if in the next 23 days we decide this is something we have to have, we could go 50-50 and pick one up for $100 a piece, because there's only a limited number of the $100 or the $100 price point available right now. 98 198 out of 500 are claimed. So it sounds like if we decide that this is must have, we can pick up one for each of us.
Groovy.
Honestly, I think I'll wait to see if this showcases at the next E3, or I guess not E3, probably CES or something like that, where someone can give me an actual hands-on demo. I think before I'd be able to drop money on something like this, I would need to prove it to myself with some hands-on live testing. Well, the second item I found is an interesting new Android Wear smartwatch that's out on the crowdfunding circuit called the Calm One. And it is a new product kind of coming out. It's I'm not quite sure how to describe it. It runs the Android Wear platform, and it also has a water-resistant IP67 rating, powered by a 1 gigahertz X-Burst uh, Ingenic J74775 processor. Don't worry, that doesn't mean anything to me either, outside the 1 gigahertz part. But it does have a gyroscope, accelerometer, magnetometer, pedometer, GPS, heart rate sensor, and pressure, humidity, and temperature sensors, all shared with a 400 milliamp battery, and supposedly rated for 2 days of battery life. The watch face is a 1.6-inch AMO LED display with a 320 by 320 resolution for the display. They're looking for a release in January for the device, which is, like I said, currently still funding over on Indiegogo. They're looking for $75,000. They're currently at $17,520, 23% of their goal, with 21 days remaining. This seems like a very simplified smartwatch in its display with a lot of sensors packed in underneath. You can currently pick one up for $125, and then the price varies a little bit depending on how fancy of a strap you'd like to come with the watch. I would kind of probably want to order one strapless, to be honest, and put my own watch band on it. But I know we've talked a lot about watches lately, and it seems to be the go-to wearable accessory these days. What are your thoughts on this version of an Android smartwatch, Eric?
Like I said previously, I'm really looking forward to smartwatches in general, just because I'd like to see how they function for when riding a motorcycle, and maybe even when driving my car, simply because I don't like looking at my phone to determine where I'm going or how long till I get there, or what time it is. And one thing I like about this is they have a lot. It looks really nice, and the different strap options are also very attractive. Different colors, all the little things you need. Android Wear compatible. That's the most important part. It without having to worry, it can work seamlessly with anything that supports Android Wear. But what I really like is the price is not that high compared to a lot of other Android smartwatches out there right now.
Right.
It's not trying to.
Sensors they pack into it.
Yeah, it's not trying to be the most crazy, fancy watch out there. It's just saying this is going to function and it's going to do all the things Android Wear can do. Here it is for the one low price of $125, and that's a great price in comparison to what else is on the market right now. And hopefully, competitors like this and other independent device manufacturers, whether they're funded through Indiegogo or Kickstarter or they're just making their own device, with lower prices will drive down the overall average prices for these watches.
And it looks like they're saying the final retail price, once the Indiegogo campaign has completed, is going to be a $200 price point they're aiming for. So picking one of these up for $125 seems like a pretty good deal. especially compared to something like the Pebble, where you're relying on a company to develop the underlying architecture that has to talk to the smartphone. This takes advantage of Google already developing all of the OS that needs to run on the watch and instead focusing just on implementation, which is, I think, a much better place to be. I think it's much more reliable and a much easier target for developers to hit.
Totally.
I mean, building an OS that fits to your wrist seems like quite an undertaking, and Pebble has shown that that's not easy to do successfully.
Totally. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a project like this. Um, and interestingly enough, if anyone's wondering, their estimated delivery is the end of the year, December. So if you did decide to pick one up for the low price of 125, you would be able to get your hands on it fairly quickly.
I'm really tempted, out of all the smartwatches I've seen, to pull the trigger on this one. We'll have to see how the bank looks once all the bills are paid, because I've been thinking more and more about how much I'd like to have the Android Wear technology on my wrist. Just today, I was in a meeting and wishing I could check what the alerts were that were buzzing on my phone in my pocket without having to pull out my phone in the middle of a presentation meeting going on with some of the upper members of management. And something like this would be really slick to have.
Agreed.
All right. Well, jumping forward into our discussion topics, the first one I wanted to bring up is looking at the console war. Now, this is kind of an interesting topic for us to discuss because I believe neither one of us actually bought into this generation's consoles. Is that right?
Yeah, I do not have a PS4 or a Xbox One. Excuse me.
Did you buy any of the last gen, the Xbox 360 or the PS3, or have you skipped out of the last several generations of consoles?
I owned an Xbox 360 for a time, and it was very nice. I ended up selling it to a friend of mine for I didn't spend a whole ton of money on it. I ended up I ended up recouping most of it when I sold it to a friend of mine. I played a lot initially, but I ended up not playing it very often, and it got to the point where it was either going to become old and worthless, or I was going to sell it.
Yeah, I wanted a 360 for a very long time in its lifespan, and I finally got my hands on one through purchasing it from a friend who was moving probably about 2 or 3 months after the Xbox One hit the market. So that tells you how late I was to the last gen consoles. Um, right now, I'd really love to get my hands on a PS4, although I don't want to spend $500 on it. I think that is just too much money. I'm waiting for the first round of price cuts, and I may be waiting a while, but I refuse to, even in a bundle, pay the original asking price for these next gen consoles. I think they're just too expensive.
I agree. They haven't had as far as I know, the PlayStation 4 hasn't had a price cut, and $400 is still a little bit too much to pinch, especially since I've been having my other car got totaled, and I'm upkeeping a bunch of bikes and cars and blah blah blah. It's as much as I'd love to have a PS4, I probably will not get one. That is, unless if No Man's Sky only comes out for the PlayStation and not PC, I will have to buy a PlayStation 4 when that comes out. If you haven't heard about No Man's Sky, it's a very, very interesting game, and you should go get excited about it.
I actually have, yeah. I watched the trailer for it, and it looks incredible. I'm really hoping we see a PC port. I'd love to get my hands on it. I may end up playing it with a controller on the PC. Yet to be determined if that ends up being the best way to go about things. But yeah, um, not to influence the developers in any way, but that would very much sway my purchasing decision.
Well, they say, from what I've read, it's supposed to come out for PlayStation 4 and PC, but we will see.
But I think the big thing, and this discussion is stemming from an article from Ars Technica comparing the Xbox One, the PS4, and the Wii U, now over a year from their original launch. And looking at all the consoles, there's a couple of titles I really want to play on the PS4, but it's a price point issue. It fundamentally comes down to I wouldn't buy a desktop PC with the hardware specs locked into a PS4, especially if they couldn't be upgraded. For the same $500, I could build a really decent desktop PC and invest more money into it to increase the hardware power and continue to make it a great system for many years to come. With the PS4, while the developers can continue to push the hardware further and further, at the end of the day, I'm locked into a set of hardware specifications.
Well, the a lot of people say that the consoles are holding us back from graphics or other things, and I understand. I understand. But as far as like the hardware goes, the games are all built for it, so they're going to work. And whether or not they're the most beautiful thing in the world, oh well, they're going to work to their specifications. You're not going to have to futz around with graphics settings or the same problem you have with the PCs, and they will just go up and run at their designated performance. It's I don't really think of consoles as some kind of performance problem. It's kind of like how I feel about phones. Most phones are just fast enough to do what you want to do with them. The only problem with phones is, with Android phones anyways, is if they have enough RAM to have a bunch of stuff running at once. And so if the phone's got enough RAM, then it's pretty much good enough. And as long as the OS is 4 or better, the OS is new enough to do most of the things you're going to want to do, besides Google Now or whatever. But for as long as apps are concerned, I feel the same way with consoles. So as long as the console's new enough, it's going to be fine, and any games that are made for it are going to play great, and then you can just not worry about it.
I think that sums it up really well. It's just that, and I'm torn between what the first console I would want to drop money on, and part of me says it should be a Wii U. 'Cause I like supporting Nintendo, but realistically, when I look at the titles I would play more often, a PS4 is going to come up as the winner on that list. But I don't know. Overall, I just keep coming back to my PC and the number of titles I have there, the amount of sheer functionality that the desktop PC provides in comparison to the kind of one-trick pony that a console is nowadays. Um, I I really like to have an next-gen console for a few things, but this may end up being a round I sit out.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if there's a game that will win it for me, then I may just bite the bullet. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't play enough games to spend $500 on a console.
Yeah, I think it sounds like both of us, if we were to pick one of these up, first would never pick it up brand new. There's no reason for us to buy one of these consoles brand new off a shelf, and even at buying one used, it's going to come down largely to the price point and the content that's available. And right now, there just isn't anything to justify it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of an old man in that regard, though, so I don't think I count.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode for today. Um, the only last bit of news I want to share, not truly technology related, but in case you were unaware, Coca-Cola is bringing the soda Surge back onto the market. Um, Announced or discovered today, Amazon is listing Surge 16-ounce cans coming back onto the market. No pricing information has been released, but You can sign up to be notified by Amazon as soon as they are available in the market. As they're marketing them, Surge originally existed in the U.S. from 1996 to 2001, and it is now back by popular demand. If you're not familiar with the soda, it is a citrus flavored drink that is highly caffeinated. So I'm excited. Kind of a throwback nostalgia. Definitely at least get my hand on a six pack somewhere to enjoy and maybe tuck one away on a shelf to remember the soda that I loved as a kid and probably never actually need to drink again.
Yeah.
I'll stick one in my collection along with Jolt Cola.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind an original Jolt Cola. That or oh man, did you ever have any of those Rockstar Colas?
Oh, the Rockstar Cola was amazing,
Oh my God, yeah, that was some. Ooh, that was tasty.
right?
I love hurting my body, putting disgusting things into it. Oh yes.
All the chemicals. I need all the stimulants.
Oh yes, this is true.
All right. Well, with that slightly disturbing revelation, I think we'll go ahead and sign off. Anything you want to say to the listeners before we get out of here?
No.
Done. All right, everybody. Catch us on. But hey, we'll be here in a few short days. We're back on Thursday, so hope you tune in again. Tech2wiceweekly.com. Like I said, we'll be back on Thursday for another edition. Please send any stories you find or feedback to feedback@tech2wiceweekly.com, and we'll see everybody then. Thank you. All right, that's a show.